What is hallmarking and when do you need to hallmark your jewelry? If you're new to all of this and say you're a jewelry designer starting out and you've got designs created, the whole hallmarking thing can be definitely confusing for some. It's a super common question that we get asked year after year. What is a hallmark? A lot of people get confused with a 925 stamp, but there's actually a lot more to it. Other questions such as, when do I need it? What if I don't have it on my jewelry pieces? These are all the common questions I get. So stay watching and we're going to simplify it as much as we can, making it easy for you to understand so you don't have to worry about it and you can just get on with designing your jewelry and building your brand. If you're new to this channel, hi, I'm Kim, owner of Thai Design Distributors, a third generation family business since 1975, owning a manufacturing plant in Thailand where we specialize in producing silver and gold jewelry exclusively for our designer customers. Please watch my intro video, which tells you a little bit more about myself and the purpose of this channel. And obviously, if you guys have any questions or topics that you'd like me to talk about, just drop it into the comment section below. And please don't forget to like, subscribe for all my latest tips and videos on jewelry manufacturing. Okay, so let's get to it, guys. What exactly is a hallmark? So a hallmark on a jewelry piece is basically a mark that shows that the piece has been independently tested and that it matches to its description as well as to the legal standards of the purity or the fineness of that metal. So I think in order to cover this topic of hallmarking, we'll just break it down by geography or location. So we'll be talking about how it applies to the UK and then in the US. Certainly in the UK, hallmarking is significant because it protects buyers of precious metal items against fraud. If you are in the UK, how do you know if your jewelry needs a hallmark? So it all depends on what metal the jewelry is and the weight. So don't get scared because it's not every single jewelry item. For sterling silver, the piece has to weigh over 7.78 grams for it to have a legally recognized hallmark. In solid gold, it has to be over 1 gram, and for platinum, it has to be over 0.4 grams. So that's the law, and that was set out by the Hallmarking Act of 1973. So yeah, I know, for gold, it's more likely than not that you'll probably need a hallmark because 1 gram is just pretty light. Any items below those weight for those metals are exempt. Now, you guys know that I manufacture in sterling silver and gold only. So a lot of the times when we're working with jewelry designers, a lot of my customers deliberately try to design jewelry under this weight. I mean, it's much easier for sterling silver because the threshold is 7.78 grams, so there's still a bit to play around with in order to avoid any hallmarking. For gold, it's not so much. It's only 1 gram, so the vast majority of gold pieces that we produce for our customers will have to be hallmarked. So the Assay Office is the place that they test the precious metal content of the jewelry and then give it the appropriate assay purity mark, as well as the marker or sponsor mark. And we'll talk a bit more about this sponsor mark a little later. The Goldsmiths Company Assay Office is where the whole hallmarking thing began, and they've been testing and hallmarking precious metals for over 700 years. I think they hallmark about 3 million items a year, which is pretty impressive. FYI, in the UK, they have various location sites. So to find your nearest Assay Office, just look on their online website, and I'll provide all the links that we've talked about in this video in the description below to help you. So at the Assay offices, they use the latest technologies, including X-ray and laser analysis to mark the hallmarking, but many pieces are still stamped by hand, which is exactly what they did 700 years ago. Let's talk about the actual hallmark now. So something to note is that a complete hallmark consists of 3 compulsory marks. If an item hasn't been stamped or marked with these 3 markings, then it hasn't been properly hallmarked. So just be aware that 3 marks have to be present. So the image here shows a full hallmark. Number 1 is the sponsors or the maker's mark, which I touched on earlier. The LAO, as it appears in the image, stands for London Assay Office. This is one of the compulsory marks, and it's basically the registered mark of the company or the person that's sending the jewelry piece or pieces for hallmarking. The second is called the metal fineness marks. That shows the traditional fineness mark, meaning what the article is made of. And this is an optional mark. And then there's the other fineness mark showing what the piece is made of and its purity. So here, the 925 shows the piece is sterling silver with the 92.5% being pure silver. This mark is compulsory. Number 3 shows the Assay Office mark. So basically where the piece was hallmarked. Like I mentioned earlier, there are, I think, 4 different Assay Offices located around the UK. So some of those marks will differ depending on which Assay Office the hallmarking was done. And it's pretty cool that each location has its own logo stamp. This mark, again, is compulsory. Number 4 is an optional mark. So in this image, the mark is a date letter, which shows the year that the piece was hallmarked. The U here indicates that the piece was hallmarked in 2019, and every date letter changes on the 1st of January of every year. So I believe this year for 2021, it's a W. So now I want to talk a little bit more about the sponsor's mark, which was the compulsory mark number 1 in the image. So just to repeat, the sponsor's mark basically indicates the individual or firm who is accountable for sending the item or items to the Assay Office. The sponsor's mark has to be at least 2 letters, and anyone can really do this, whether it's a manufacturer like myself, retailers, or individual jewelry designers. The sponsor has to register the mark and pay a fee at any of the Assay offices. So just to bring some perspective into this, 50 odd years ago, we at Thai Design registered our mark, which is the initials of my late father. And I have a number of jewelry designer customers who also have their mark registered at the Assay Office too. So you can imagine that every mark is totally unique. And the really nice thing is that customers who don't have a mark at the Assay Office, but need to have their jewelry sent there for hallmarking, they can use our mark, so the manufacturer's mark, to stamp on their jewelry. We just need to authorize it, but we do it all the time. But it's also pretty cool if you have your own sponsor's mark too, which not only is unique to you, but it also is a great marketing tool to your customers. So what happens if you're a jewelry designer in the UK and you don't get your jewelry hallmarked before you sell them? Well, first of all, it's against the law, and the trading standards officers have the power to seize any items that don't comply with the 1973 Hallmark Act, which basically means that you could be prosecuted and fined up to £5,000 per article. Now, moving to the requirements in the US, because that's a totally different story. Hallmarking in the US is in fact not a legal requirement. Instead, a lot of US consumers look for a certain maker's mark for assurance. But the problem is that maker's marks aren't regulated, so there's no assurance to know if the maker's mark is connected to a process that proves that the piece is advertised honestly. In addition, there's not even a legal requirement in the US to register a maker's mark on the jewelry piece. It's really just up to the jewelry designer if they want to add their mark or not. I know it's pretty strict in the UK, jewelry pieces of these certain metals and weights have to be tested, assayed, and hallmarked by law, but in the US, they just don't have that same legislation. You know, they're very proud of their traditional system of self-regulation and public control over commodities and consumer rights. And I think it's just something that Americans are proud of. So really, at the end of the day, what happens is that retail sellers just need to take care of their goods quality individually, and consumers equally need to be super vigilant. If you are a jewelry designer in the US, I know that one of the common practices is to send a couple of random samples, say from an order that you placed with your supplier, to an independent assaying office that are, again, scattered across the US states and cities. Again, I'll provide a list of the assay offices below in the description. Personally, I think to a large extent, hallmarking is important. Now, that could just be because I'm a born and bred Londoner, so that's just a tradition that we hold. But in reality, we need to be aware that precious metals like gold, silver, platinum, and palladium are sometimes not used in their purest form. And in fact, it's mixed with other metals to form an alloy that basically, creates the desired color and strength. So really, it's quite difficult to know what a piece of jewelry is even made of if you're just looking at it or feeling it. One of the practices that we've historically done at our manufacturing plant is that for any orders, we offer free stamping of the 925 mark, because we know that the metal is sterling silver, so we're confident to stamp it on every single jewelry piece that we make at the plant. Sometimes customers specify that they don't want us to stamp the 925 or that we don't advise it because let's say the order consists of items that are real gold, over 1 gram, or it's silver that weighs, say, 8 grams, so just over the threshold. We know that those goods have to be sent to the Assay Office before my customers can sell them. And so we know that they will stamp the 95 anyway. So there's no point for me, the manufacturer, to stamp it. Otherwise, it'll be stamped twice on the piece, and that might not look nice from an aesthetic point of view. I mean, most people can't tell the difference if a piece is sterling silver or not. So I think hallmarking is great because it protects consumers by certifying exactly what that precious metal consists of. Otherwise, it could be a risk to consumers. But the hallmarking gives them confidence to know that the jewelry that they're buying is what it says it is. So yes, there's a fee for the hallmarking at the Assay Office, but hey, I think if it allows your customers to be 100% assured and confident in your brand, I think it's worth it. Okay, guys, that's it. I hope you found that helpful. Again, any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. And thanks for watching. Take care. Bye.